What if I told you that the official story of Queen Elizabeth's death was nothing but a carefully crafted illusion? For over 4 decades, she ruled with unmatched power the Virgin Queen who defeated the Spanish Armada and built an empire. Yet, behind palace walls, her final days unraveled into chaos, madness, and secrecy. Stay with me. Hit that subscribe button now, because the disturbing truth of Elizabeth's last moments will challenge everything you thought you knew. The year was 1603, and Elizabeth was 67 in age that by Tudor standards was already miraculous. But weakness for a monarch was a death sentence. To survive, she perfected the art of deception. Each morning, her servants coated her face with a thick mask of white lead and vinegar hiding the scars of smallpox. What the world saw was elegance. What the mirror reflected was decay. Her teeth, blackened by years of sugar indulgence, rarely appeared in public. She smiled with lips tightly closed or angled her head so no one could glimpse the ruin within. And her once fiery red hair, by her 60s it had fallen out completely. Elizabeth wore wigs, more than 80 of them, each more elaborate than the last, a crown of artifice masking the erosion of her body. But the disguise was killing her. The very paint that gave her face its porcelain glow was seeping poison into her blood. Lead and mercury gnawed away at her health, leaving her fragile, her hands trembling uncontrollably. And in the still hours of the night when masks and wigs were set aside, servants whispered that the Queen held conversations not with her courtiers, but with the portraits of her younger self. Imagine wandering the palace at 3 a.m., only to find your monarch standing before a painting from her coronation, speaking as though it might answer her back. Elizabeth asked advice from canvases, begged guidance from oil and pigment. To some it was eccentricity, to others evidence that their queen was slipping into madness. Despite her frailty, Elizabeth maintained the theater of strength. Every public gesture was choreographed, every audience rehearsed. She wore gloves constantly concealing fingernails that had turned black and lifeless. To her subjects, she was still the radiant ruler. To those closest to her, she was a woman disintegrating before their eyes. By 1602, her inner circle orchestrated what could only be described as a psychological operation. They managed who saw her when and under what lighting conditions. Elizabeth had become not a sovereign, but a performance, an illusion, crafted to maintain stability in a kingdom teetering on the edge of chaos. But illusion could not erase politics. For 45 years, Elizabeth had refused to name an heir. It was a masterstroke of strategy that kept ambitious nobles and foreign kings off balance. Yet by her final winter, that brilliant ambiguity had become a deadly gamble. With the Queen visibly failing, the vultures began to circle. Robert Cecil, her chief minister, was already in secret communication with James VI of Scotland, preparing for a smooth transition. Others, furious at the execution of the Earl of Essex just 2 years earlier, schemed for alternative successors. Catholic nobles whispered of restoring their faith to the throne. What Elizabeth had once wielded as power was now unraveling into an existential threat to England itself. Even Elizabeth seemed to savor the looming chaos. At her final Christmas court, she told the French ambassador, "I may not be here next Christmas, but England will survive the storm." She was right. Her death would not only mark the end of an era, it would ignite one of the most perilous succession crises in English history. Elizabeth's final months revealed behavior that alarmed even the most loyal courtiers. She refused to lie down in bed, insisting on standing against pillows. "If I lie down, I shall never rise again," she said cryptically. Servants reported finding her in the dead of night, eyes wide open, speaking to invisible figures no one else could see. Her obsession with portraits escalated beyond mere curiosity. She ordered paintings moved daily, claiming they judged her choices. A 1602 inventory shows her repositioned the same portraits 47 times in a single month. The Queen was literally rearranging the image of herself as if controlling history one canvas at a time. Food became a battlefield. Elizabeth, always a light eater, refused meals entirely unless prepared by a single trusted cook. Each dish had to be tasted first by a rotating group of courtiers she suspected of disloyalty. Fear of poison gripped her, turning even simple nourishment into a test of loyalty and control. Her ladies-in-waiting documented increasingly erratic actions. Hours would pass as she stared at her hands, claiming to see the marks of time moving like shadows. She hoarded buttons, coins, and scraps of fabric, hiding them throughout her chambers, a magpie collecting fragments of the past and future alike. Guards reported seeing her in the palace gardens at 2 a.m., clad only in her nightgown, searching for something intangible. When asked, she said she sought her younger self or the location of her lost happiness. The line between reality and obsession was dissolving, leaving those around her in quiet terror. The breaking point came in February 1603. During a court session, Elizabeth rose and danced alone, following music only she could hear for 20 minutes. The most powerful monarch in Europe swayed and spun her courtiers, frozen in silence, witnesses to a performance that blurred sanity and spectacle. Her inner circle responded with what they called management protocols, essentially treating their queen as a patient in constant need of supervision. Decisions she might have made were quietly intercepted or forged. Letters were managed, potential troublemakers neutralized, all to maintain the facade of a strong, enduring sovereign. March 10, 1603, marked her transfer to Richmond Palace for what would be her final performance. The official narrative claims she died peacefully, yet witness accounts paint a very different picture. Robert Cecil said she prayed quietly. Lady Scrow, her attendant, claimed Elizabeth raged, speaking to people unseen. By March 18th, she admitted "I am not well," her first acknowledgement of illness in months. Yet, even this simple statement is contested. Cecil recorded, "All my possessions for a moment of time." Scrow wrote, "I wish not to live any longer," and another courtier claimed she said nothing at all. The mystery of her final words remains unsolved. The death scene itself is riddled with contradictions. Elizabeth supposedly died around 3 a.m. on March 24th, but the announcement came only at 11 a.m., an 8-hour gap of strict lockdown with only 6 people allowed near her chambers. Her body was prepared for burial by the same individuals. No independent physician examined her, and no autopsy was performed, highly unusual for a monarch. The official cause of death was listed as old age and melancholy, a diagnosis so vague it raises more questions than it answers. Windows in her chambers, which she had insisted remain sealed for fear of the night air, were mysteriously open that morning. Someone had altered the scene after her passing. Even stranger, a letter from the Spanish ambassador written 3 days prior to her death mentions developments about the English succession, as if he knew what was about to unfold before it happened. The timing suggests foreign intelligence might have been privy to the orchestrated events surrounding Elizabeth's final moments. Within hours of her death, a systematic cover-up began. Robert Cecil acted with meticulous precision, sending pre-prepared succession documents to Scotland and shaping the narrative to ensure James VI's smooth rise. Public perception would focus on the grand transition, not the unsettling inconsistencies in the Queen's demise. Elizabeth's personal physician, Dr. John Dee, who had been documenting her mysterious symptoms, was found dead 3 days later. Officially heart failure, but the timing was highly convenient, silencing someone who could have contradicted the official story. The pattern of eliminating witnesses begins to look deliberate. Lady Scrow, who had written private letters detailing Elizabeth's erratic behavior, recanted. Her revised testimony, now aligned with Cecil's narrative, paints a queen dying peacefully. The change was accompanied by mysterious financial relief and court appointments for her family, raising suspicions of coercion or reward. The palace chambers themselves were stripped and renovated within a week. Tapestries, furniture, and personal items were either destroyed or moved. When questioned, Cecil claimed it was standard protocol, yet records show no such measures had been taken for previous monarchs. The disappearance of physical evidence was methodical. Key witnesses vanished from the historical record. Sir Thomas Heneage, present in Elizabeth's final weeks, disappears after March 1603. His estate was quietly absorbed by the crown, and his family never spoke publicly. The erasure of individuals from history was part of a larger effort to sanitize the Queen's final days. The official death announcement contains anachronisms and contradictions. Events are reported in sequences that could not have occurred, quotes are attributed to people not present, and documented conversations contradict other sources. The narrative was carefully edited to eliminate uncomfortable truths. Cecil's masterstroke was the funeral itself. By staging the most elaborate royal procession in English history lasting hours and costing a fortune, he shifted public attention from her death to the celebration of her reign. The spectacle effectively silenced doubts about what truly happened at Richmond Palace. The cover-up succeeded so well that historians only began noticing inconsistencies centuries later. Scrutiny reveals that Elizabeth's final act wasn't a peaceful decline, but a complex operation in control deception and political theater hiding secrets that could shake the foundations of monarchy itself. Theories about what truly killed Elizabeth are far more disturbing than the official story. One widely considered explanation is mercury poisoning. Her famous white lead and mercury makeup applied daily to cover smallpox scars contained levels that could produce tremors, paranoia, insomnia, and neurological collapse. Her blackened fingernails described in accounts from the time fit the classic symptoms of mercury toxicity. Conversations with her portraits, which she reportedly held in the dead of night, may have been mercury-induced hallucinations. Even her obsessive rearrangement of artwork could be explained through chemical-induced paranoia. But there's more. During a renovation at Richmond Palace in 1999, a hidden chamber was discovered beneath Elizabeth's former rooms. Inside were bottles containing arsenic antimony and other poisons. The discovery was immediately classified and removed from public access, suggesting the contents might reveal something explosive about her death. Another theory hints at assisted suicide. Coded letters between Cecil and his associates, discovered in the 1980s, but largely ignored, make reference to ending the Queen's suffering. Elizabeth, facing complete mental collapse and aware of the succession crisis, may have quietly consented to a merciful exit. A darker possibility points to religious extremists within her court. Elizabeth's Protestant reforms had created powerful enemies. Some evidence suggests radical Puritans might have expedited her demise to place a more compliant monarch on the throne, exploiting her weakening mind and the succession chaos. The mysterious 8-hour gap between her death and the public announcement raises further questions. During that time, the palace was tightly controlled, and all access to her chambers was limited to a small group of trusted individuals. Evidence could be staged or removed without witnesses. When her body was finally viewed by independent witnesses days later, signs of rapid decomposition were reported. Such decay is inconsistent with natural death, but consistent with certain Renaissance-era poisons. The timeline suggests Elizabeth's demise may have been accelerated by chemicals, whether administered with consent or not. The Spanish ambassador's preemptive letter becomes more chilling in this light. He wasn't simply predicting Elizabeth's death. He described specific succession procedures implying intelligence networks knew what was planned. The overlap of domestic and foreign intrigue paints a picture of orchestrated elimination. If Elizabeth, the most powerful monarch in Europe, could be removed so efficiently, and the truth buried for centuries, it suggests a terrifying lesson. Absolute power can be taken from those who wield it even at the pinnacle of their strength through cunning and secrecy. Her death wasn't merely the end of an era. It was a masterclass in political assassination and historical manipulation. From her toxic cosmetics to hidden chambers, recanted witnesses, and orchestrated succession, Elizabeth's final days revealed the dangerous intersection of ambition, loyalty, and the relentless pursuit of control. In the months leading up to her death, Elizabeth's daily routine had become a theater of control and illusion. Servants meticulously applied her makeup, adjusted wigs, and positioned her in ways that concealed frailty. Every movement, every smile was rehearsed, maintaining the myth of the Virgin Queen. The crown's weight, her elaborate gowns, and layers of clothing weren't just symbols of power. They masked a body ravaged by age, illness, and years of toxic cosmetics. Courtiers whispered about her trembling hands and the strange fevered energy that seemed to surge unpredictably. Elizabeth's obsession with her portraits grew into something almost ritualistic. She didn't merely talk to them. She demanded obedience, inspecting them at odd hours, rearranging them and criticizing the versions of herself that refused to reflect her authority accurately. Her paranoia about food became extreme. Only one trusted cook could prepare meals, and every bite was tasted by another courtier first. Even then, the queen would watch and judge the reactions, suspecting betrayal or poison with a sharp, calculating gaze. Midnight wanderings were common. Guards recounted finding her in the gardens in a nightgown, searching for things she couldn't explain, claiming she sought her younger self or the happiness that had slipped away from her decades ago. By early 1603, Elizabeth's behavior terrified those closest to her. During court sessions, she would dance alone to music only she could hear spinning and swaying as courtiers looked on in silent horror. These displays signaled that her mental state was deteriorating rapidly. To manage the crisis, her inner circle established management protocols. Essentially, Elizabeth became a patient under surveillance, with courtiers controlling who could see her, what documents she could sign, and even which rooms she could enter safely. Her move to Richmond Palace in March 1603 was staged as a final performance. The narrative of a peaceful decline, however, was carefully constructed. Witnesses reported wildly differing accounts of her final words, highlighting the deliberate manipulation of her death scene. On March 18th, Elizabeth allegedly pointed to her throat and admitted, "I am not well," a rare acknowledgement of illness. Yet reports conflict. Robert Cecil claimed she offered philosophical musings, while Lady Scrow reported despair, and a courtier noted she said nothing at all, emphasizing the inconsistencies. The official death scene around March 24th is riddled with gaps. Elizabeth supposedly died at 3 a.m., yet the announcement came at 11 a.m. The palace was sealed, only 6 people had access, and no independent physician or autopsy was allowed, a remarkable deviation from protocol for a monarch. Even more alarming, the windows of Elizabeth's chambers were found wide open the morning of her death, despite her weeks-long insistence that they remain sealed. Someone had tampered with the scene, adding to the aura of mystery and suspicion surrounding her final hours. 3 days before her official death, the Spanish ambassador wrote a letter detailing developments regarding the English succession. How could he know these events with such precision? This hinted at foreknowledge and perhaps coordination behind the scenes. Within hours of her passing, Robert Cecil executed a meticulously planned historical sanitization. Writers were dispatched with prepared documents shaping public perception and ensuring the narrative of a calm, natural death dominated the record. The documents included alleged details of Elizabeth's final wishes, information that no one outside the inner circle could have witnessed. The precision suggested a preemptive orchestration rather than the chaos of spontaneous events. Dr. John D. Elizabeth's personal physician was found dead in his chambers just 3 days after her passing. Officially heart failure, but his death conveniently silenced the man most aware of her strange and deteriorating condition. Lady Scrow, who had initially documented Elizabeth's erratic behaviors, recanted her letters after the Queen's death. Her family's debts were forgiven, and her son was given a prestigious court position implying coercion or incentive to align with the official narrative. Elizabeth's private chambers were gutted within a week. Furniture, tapestries, and personal effects were destroyed or relocated. When questioned, Cecil claimed it was standard protocol, but historical records show no precedent for such thorough purging of a monarch's rooms. Several key witnesses vanished from historical records after March 1603. Sir Thomas Heneage, present during Elizabeth's final weeks, disappeared completely, his estate absorbed quietly by the crown. The erasure suggested deliberate control of evidence and memory. The official death announcement contained chronological inconsistencies and impossible events. Quotes were attributed to people not present, and accounts contradicted other documented evidence, revealing the narrative as carefully constructed fiction rather than factual history. Cecil's masterstroke was the funeral itself, an elaborate royal spectacle designed to awe the public. Hours-long processions, opulent displays, and overwhelming ceremony redirected attention from the questionable circumstances of Elizabeth's passing to the celebration of her reign. The funeral worked brilliantly. The spectacle, grandeur, and pageantry distracted England from asking uncomfortable questions about what truly happened at Richmond Palace. Few dared to challenge the official story. For over 4 centuries, historians accepted the sanitized narrative Elizabeth died peacefully, her reign concluded without scandal. But subtle inconsistencies and hidden documents slowly began to raise doubts. Modern analysis suggests mercury poisoning as a plausible cause. The white face paint she applied daily contained deadly levels of mercury and lead, which could explain tremors, paranoia, insomnia, hallucinations, and blackened fingernails. Hallucinations with portraits, conversations with invisible figures, and obsessive behaviors align with symptoms of prolonged mercury exposure. The very tools she used to maintain her image may have accelerated her decline. Renovations at Richmond Palace in 1999 uncovered a hidden chamber containing bottles with arsenic, antimony, and other poisons. Access was quickly restricted, suggesting authorities wished to suppress any potentially explosive revelations. Some historians speculate assisted suicide orchestrated by Cecil and the inner circle. Letters hint at a merciful conclusion for a queen facing mental collapse, aware of the chaos her death would provoke without a named heir. A darker theory involves radical Puritan factions within her court. Elizabeth's Protestant reforms had created enemies who might have seen her death as divine intervention, accelerating plans to place a more compliant monarch on the throne. The mysterious 8-hour gap between her death and the official announcement allowed for the staging of the scene elimination of evidence and preparation of succession documents. Precision and secrecy suggest a deliberate orchestration. Independent witnesses reported rapid decomposition of her body, inconsistent with natural death, but consistent with certain Renaissance poisons. The Spanish ambassador's letter detailing succession logistics hints at intelligence networks possibly complicit in her demise. Elizabeth's death was not merely the end of a reign, it was a masterclass in power deception and control. The most powerful queen in Europe could be eliminated quietly, her legacy controlled, and the truth hidden for centuries, a chilling reminder of how history itself can be manipulated.